Jake Martinez walked through the strange doors of the alien school building. His heavy boots made loud sounds on the smooth, shiny floor. The sound echoed in the big hallway. He had been worried about this day for 3 weeks. Today was his first real class with live alien animals. He was the only human student in the whole school. The classroom was unlike anything on Earth. It was huge and round, with seats that went up in circles around a big pit in the center. The pit was deep and had thick glass walls. Jake could see dozens of alien students already sitting in their seats. They all looked very different from each other. Some students were tall and thin with skin you could see through. These were called Altarians. They moved like dancers, smooth and graceful. Their skin glowed a little bit, like moonlight on water. Jake had learned that they were very smart and lived for hundreds of years. Other students looked like giant insects. They had 6 arms and big eyes that stuck out from their heads. These were the Zephyrians. They made clicking sounds when they talked to each other. Their wings were folded on their backs, and they moved them when they got excited. The strangest. Students wore special suits filled with orange gas. These were the Nereidans. They came from a world with no air that humans could breathe. They moved slowly and carefully in their big suits. Jake could see their faces through the clear helmets. They looked like fish, but with arms and legs. Jake found his seat in the middle section. The other students looked at him with curious eyes. He was used to this by now. Humans were rare in this part of space. Most aliens had never seen a real human before. They had heard stories about Earth, but the stories were often wrong or scary. The teacher walked into the room. She was an Altarian named Professor Veltar. She was very old, even for her species. Her skin had silver marks that showed she was wise and important. She moved to the center of the room and looked at all the students. "Good morning, class," she said. Her voice was like music, soft and flowing. "Today we will study one of the most dangerous hunters in known space. This creature comes from the outer worlds where few ships dare to go." Jake sat up straighter. He had read about this class in his schedule, but he did not know what animal they would see. The professor touched a button on her desk. The lights in the room became dimmer. A soft blue glow came from the pit in the center. "The creature we will observe today is called a Corvin Stalker," Professor Veltar continued. "It is one of the most perfect killing machines that evolution has ever created. It has never been tamed or trained. It knows only how to hunt and kill." The alien students moved closer to the edges of their seats. Jake could see they were excited but also scared. The Altarians began to glow a little brighter, which Jake had learned meant they were nervous. The Zephyrians started clicking their mandibles faster. The Nereidans made their breathing louder. "This specimen was captured 3 months ago," the professor explained. "It took a team of 50 trained hunters to bring it back alive. 5 of them did not survive the mission. The creature has been kept in a special prison since then. Today, for the first time, we will observe it in a controlled environment." Jake wondered why they needed 50 people to catch one animal. He had helped his father catch wild animals back on Earth. Usually it only took 2 or 3 people, and nobody got hurt if you knew what you were doing. The professor pushed another button. A large metal box was wheeled into the center pit by 2 robot helpers. The box was covered with warning signs in different alien languages. Jake could read some of them. They said things like "extreme danger" and "do not open without full security." The Corvin Stalker is native to worlds with very high gravity, Professor Veltar said. This gives it incredible strength. Its bones are 3 times denser than most creatures. Its muscles are like steel cables. It can run faster than most vehicles and jump higher than most buildings. The alien students whispered to each other. Jake could hear fear in their voices. He was starting to understand why everyone was so worried. But he was also curious. What could be so dangerous that it scared all these different species? "The creature has 6 legs, each ending in claws that can cut through starship metal," the professor continued. "Its teeth are harder than diamonds. Its skin can stop most energy weapons, but most dangerous of all is its intelligence. It learns from every encounter. It remembers every trap. It adapts to every situation. Jake thought about the animals he knew from Earth: lions, tigers, bears, wolves. They were all dangerous, but people lived near them for thousands of years. They found ways to deal with them. He wondered if this Corvin stalker was really so different. "Before we begin, Professor," Veltar said, "I must remind you all of the safety rules. Do not make sudden movements. Do not make loud noises. Do not look directly at the creature for more than a few seconds. If the emergency alarm sounds, remain in your seats and follow all instructions immediately." She paused and looked around the room. Her eyes stopped on Jake for a moment. "Mr. Martinez, as our human student, you should know that your species has no natural defense against this type of predator. Humans evolved on a world with relatively weak carnivores. Please be extra careful during this demonstration." Jake nodded, but he felt a little confused. Earth had plenty of dangerous animals. Maybe the professor did not know much about his home planet. He had learned that most aliens thought Earth was a safe, peaceful world. They were very wrong about that. The professor moved to her control panel. "I will now activate the containment field and release the specimen. Remember, the energy barrier is completely safe. The creature cannot escape. However, I ask that you remain calm. The Corvin stalker can sense fear, and it becomes more aggressive when it detects scared prey." Jake looked around at his classmates. They were all clearly terrified. The Altarians were glowing much brighter now. The Zephyrians had stopped clicking and were sitting perfectly still. The Nereidans had slowed their breathing to almost nothing. The professor pressed a series of buttons. A low humming sound filled the room. Jake could see a faint shimmer in the air around the metal box, like heat waves rising from hot pavement. This was the containment field, an invisible wall of energy that would keep the creature trapped. "Release in 5 seconds, the professor announced. 4.3.2. Release. The metal box opened with a soft hiss. For a moment, nothing happened. The classroom was completely silent. Even the humming of the containment field seemed to get quieter. Then something moved in the shadows inside the box. Jake leaned forward, trying to see better. He caught a glimpse of something large and dark. Then 2 glowing eyes appeared in the darkness, then 4 more eyes. The creature was looking out at them, studying them, deciding what to do next. Slowly, carefully, the Corvin stalker stepped out of its prison and into the light. The Corvin stalker stepped into the light, and Jake got his first clear look at the creature everyone was so afraid of. It was about the size of a mountain lion from Earth, but very different in shape. Its body was long and muscular, covered in dark fur with bright blue stripes that glowed like electric lights. The glow moved along its body in waves, creating patterns that hurt to look at directly. The creature had 6 legs instead of 4. Each leg was thick and powerful, ending in paws with claws as long as kitchen knives. Its head was large and round, with 6 eyes arranged in 2 rows. The eyes were bright yellow and seemed to look in all directions at once. When it opened its mouth, Jake could see rows of sharp teeth that gleamed white in the classroom lights. The alien students became very quiet. Jake could hear them breathing, but nobody spoke. The Altarians had stopped glowing almost completely, trying to make themselves invisible. The Zephyrians had folded their wings tight against their bodies. The Nereidans had turned down the lights in their helmets so they would not attract attention. Professor Veltar stood at her control panel, watching the creature carefully. She pressed buttons and touched screens, making notes about everything. The Corvin stalker did. Her voice was calm and professional when she spoke. "Observe how the specimen tests its environment," she said quietly. "See how it walks along the edge of the containment field. It is learning the boundaries of its prison. This behavior shows high intelligence." The creature walked in a slow circle around the pit. Its 6 eyes moved constantly, looking at everything. It sniffed the air with its large nose. It listened to every sound with ears that could turn in different directions. Jake watched it move and thought it looked like a cat exploring a new room. The Corvin stalker stopped and looked up at the students. Its 6 eyes focused on different groups of aliens. When it looked at the Altarians, they became even more dim. When it looked at the Zephyrians, they pressed themselves back into their seats. When it looked at the Nereidans, they stopped moving completely. Then the creature looked at Jake. Jake looked back at it without fear. He had learned from his father that showing fear to wild animals was dangerous. The creature tilted its head, like a dog that did not understand something. Its blue stripes pulsed faster for a moment, then slowed down again. "Interesting," Professor Veltar said. "The creature seems confused by our human student. This is the first time I have seen it react this way." Jake wondered what she meant. The creature did not seem confused to him. It just seemed curious, like any smart animal would be in a new place. The professor continued the lesson. She used different tools to make the Corvan stalker show its hunting behaviors. She played sounds that made it crouch low and move like it was stalking prey. She showed it lights that made it jump and spin in the air. She released smells that made it bare its teeth and growl. Each time the creature did something, the alien students took notes and made recordings. They were clearly fascinated by the demonstrations, but they also stayed far back from the edge of the pit. Jake noticed that none of them seemed to think the creature was beautiful or graceful. To them it was just a killing machine, but Jake thought it was amazing. The way it moved reminded him of big cats from Earth. Its muscles flowed under its fur like water. Its balance was perfect. When it jumped, it seemed to float in the air. When it landed, it made no sound at all. The Corvan stalker is perfectly designed for hunting, Professor Veltar explained. Its 6 legs give it stability on any surface. Its multiple eyes let it see in all directions. Its claws can grip any material. Its teeth can bite through almost anything. Jake had been watching for 20 minutes when he noticed something the professor had not mentioned. The creature's blue stripes were changing color. They had been bright blue when it first came out of its box. Now they were turning purple and red. The pattern was different too, moving faster and in swirling shapes instead of straight lines. "Professor," Jake said, raising his hand, "I think the creature is getting upset." All the alien students turned to look at him. Professor Veltar paused in her lecture and looked at the Corvan stalker more carefully. The creature was pacing faster now, and its breathing was heavier. "You are very observant, Mr. Martinez," she said. "Yes, the color changes in its bioluminescent stripes indicate emotional states. The creature is indeed becoming agitated. This is normal behavior when a predator is confined for too long." Jake nodded, but he kept watching the creature. Something about its behavior reminded him of caged animals he had seen at zoos on Earth. They acted the same way when they were stressed or bored. The Corvan stalker was not just agitated. It was looking for a way out. The creature stopped pacing and sat down in the center of the pit. It looked up at the ceiling, then at the walls, then at the invisible barrier that kept it trapped. Jake could see it was testing everything, trying to find a weakness. "The containment field is completely secure," Professor Veltar said, as if she had read Jake's thoughts. "The creature cannot escape. We have used this system for over 50 years without any problems." Just as she finished speaking, the lights in the classroom flickered. Everyone looked up at the ceiling. The lights flickered again, longer this time. The humming sound of the containment field changed pitch, becoming higher and more strained. "That is unusual," Professor Veltar said. She pressed several buttons on her control panel. "There appears to be a power fluctuation in the building's main grid." The Corvan stalker's head snapped up. Its 6 eyes all focused on the same spot, the place where the containment field generator was mounted on the wall. The creature's stripes turned bright red and it stood up slowly. "This is not a problem," the professor announced to the class. "The containment system has backup power. Even if the main grid fails, the barrier will remain active." But Jake could see that the creature had noticed something everyone else had missed. The shimmer in the air around the pit was getting weaker. The invisible wall was losing power. The lights flickered a third time, and this time they stayed dim for several seconds. In that moment of darkness, Jake heard a sound that made his blood run cold. It was the sound of the containment field generator shutting down. The humming stopped. The shimmer in the air Disappeared, the invisible wall was gone. Professor Veltar stared at her control panel in shock. Her silver markings turned dark, which Jake had learned meant she was very afraid. "Emergency protocols," she said, but her voice was shaking. "Please remain calm while I restore the containment field." But the Corvan stalker was already moving. It took one step forward, testing the space where the barrier had been. When nothing stopped it, the creature's red stripes flared to maximum brightness. It crouched low, gathering its powerful muscles. The alien students began to panic. The Altarians started glowing so bright they hurt to look at. The Zephyrians opened their wings and made horrible screeching sounds. The Nereidans tried to back away, but their heavy suits made them slow and clumsy. Jake watched the creature choose its target. It was looking at a group of young Altarians in the front row. They were glowing brightest, making them easy to see. Their fear was like a beacon calling to a predator. The Corvan stalker's muscles tensed. Its claws extended. Its lips pulled back to show all its teeth. Then it leaped. The creature launched itself out of the pit, flying through the air toward the terrified students. Its 6 legs spread wide, its claws ready to grab and tear. Its mouth opened in a silent roar. Jake did not think. He just moved. Jake jumped over the barrier between the seats and dropped into the demonstration pit. He landed hard on the crystal floor, his boots making a loud crack that echoed through the room. The Corvan stalker was already in the air, flying toward the group of terrified Altarian students who were glowing like bright stars. Jake had grown up in the mountains of Colorado. His father had taught him to hunt and fish when he was just a boy. He had learned to track deer, avoid bears, and catch wild animals without hurting them. His grandfather had been a park ranger who dealt with mountain lions and wolves. Jake had heard stories about dangerous animals his whole life. More importantly, he had learned never to run from a predator. The Corvan stalker was halfway to the students when it saw Jake moving below. The creature's 6 eyes turned toward this new threat. It could not change direction in midair, but it twisted its body to look at the human who had appeared in its hunting ground. Jake positioned himself directly between the creature and the students. He spread his arms wide and bent his knees, making himself look as large as possible. He had done this before with mountain lions back home. You never run, you never show fear. You make yourself big and hold your ground. The Corvan stalker landed just a few feet away from Jake. Its claws scraped against the crystal floor, leaving deep scratches. Its red stripes pulsed angrily, casting strange shadows on the walls. The creature was bigger than Jake had thought, nearly as tall as his chest. When it stood on its hind legs, for a moment, human and alien predators stared at each other. The classroom had become completely silent. Even the emergency alarms had stopped working when the power failed. Everyone was watching to see what would happen next. Jake looked into the creature's 6 yellow eyes. He could see intelligence there, but also confusion. The Corvan stalker was used to prey that ran away or froze in fear. It did not know what to do with something that stood its ground and showed no fear. "Easy there, big guy," Jake said in a calm voice. He used the same tone he had used with scared dogs and wild animals back home. "Nobody wants to hurt you. You're just scared because you don't know where you are." The creature tilted its head, like a cat hearing a strange sound. Its stripes began to change from red to orange, then to yellow. Jake had been watching it long enough to know. That meant it was becoming less angry and more curious, but the Corvan stalker was still a predator. It took a step toward Jake, its claws clicking on the floor. Its mouth opened slightly, showing those knife-sharp teeth. It was testing this strange new creature, trying to decide if Jake was prey or something else. Jake held his ground. He had learned from his father that wild animals could smell fear. They could hear it in your voice and see it in the way you moved. The secret was to stay calm and confident, even when your heart was beating fast. The creature took another step forward. Now it was close enough that Jake could smell its wild scent, like pine trees and rain. Its breathing was heavy and fast. Its muscles were tense, ready to spring. Jake knew he had to act before the creature decided to attack. He had one chance. To do this right, he stepped forward. The movement surprised the Corvan stalker. Prey did not move toward predators. Prey ran away or tried to hide. But this human was walking closer, his arms still spread wide, his eyes locked on the creature's face. "That's right," Jake said quietly. "I'm not afraid of you. You're just a big cat, aren't you? A big confused cat who doesn't know where he is." The creature's stripes changed again, this time to a soft blue color. Jake had never seen that color before, but he guessed it meant the creature was uncertain. It took a step back, then another. Jake kept moving forward. He had learned this trick from his grandfather, who had used it with bears. Sometimes the best way to deal with a dangerous animal was to make it think you were the more dangerous one. The Corvan stalker backed up until it hit the wall of the pit. Its 6 eyes darted around, looking for an escape route. But Jake was between it and the only way out. The creature was trapped. That was when it decided to fight. The Corvan stalker launched itself at Jake, with a roar that shook the entire classroom. All 6 legs pushed off the ground at once, sending it flying through the air like a furry missile. Its claws were extended, ready to tear and slice. Its mouth was open wide, showing every one of its deadly teeth. Jake was ready for this. He had been waiting for the creature to attack ever since he jumped into the pit. He dropped to one knee and caught the Corvan stalker in midair. The impact knocked Jake backward, but he managed to keep his footing. The creature was heavier than he had expected, but not heavier than the logs he had carried while working on his father's ranch. He wrapped his arms around the creature's chest, just behind its front legs, where it could not reach him with its claws. The Corvan stalker thrashed and twisted, trying to get free. Its back legs kicked at Jake's stomach and legs, leaving scratches on his clothes but not breaking through to his skin. Its front claws swept through the air, looking for something to grab onto. Jake held on tight. He had wrestled with his cousins when he was young, and he had helped his father hold down cattle for medical treatment. He knew how to use his weight and strength to control a struggling animal. "Settle down," he said, his voice still calm despite the effort of holding the creature. "I'm not going to hurt you." "Just settle down." The creature's struggles became weaker. It was strong, but Jake was stronger. More importantly, Jake knew what he was doing. He shifted his grip, making sure he had control of the creature's head so it could not bite him. He used his legs to pin its back legs, stopping them from kicking. The Corvan stalker made a sound Jake had never heard before. It was not a roar or a growl. It was almost like a whine, the sound a dog makes when it is confused or scared. "There you go," Jake said softly. "See, I'm not going to hurt you. You're safe now." The creature's stripes changed again. The angry red faded away, replaced by soft purple and blue colors. Its breathing slowed down. Its muscles relaxed. Jake looked up at the crowd of alien students who were staring down at him. Their faces showed amazement and fear and something else he could not identify. Professor Veltar was standing at her control panel with her mouth open, as if she could not believe what she was seeing. "Is the containment field working yet?" Jake asked. He was starting to feel the strain of holding the creature, but he did not want to let go until it was safe. Professor Veltar blinked and looked at her controls. "The emergency power should activate in a few moments," she said. Her voice sounded strange, like she was talking in her sleep. Jake nodded and looked down at the Corvan stalker. The creature was looking back at him with its 6 eyes. It was no longer trying to escape. It seemed to be studying him, trying to understand what kind of creature he was. "You're not so bad," Jake said to it. "You were just scared. Everything's going to be okay now." The creature made that whining sound again. Then it did something that shocked everyone in the room. It began to purr. The sound was deep and rumbling, like a truck engine running smoothly. Jake could feel the vibrations through his arms and chest. The creature's stripes changed to a warm golden color, and its eyes half closed in what looked like contentment. Jake had never heard of a Corvan stalker purring before. He was pretty sure no one else had either, based on the gasps and whispers coming from the students above. The emergency power finally kicked in. The lights came back on, and the containment field generator began to hum again. The shimmer appeared in the air around the pit, trapping Jake and the creature inside the invisible barrier. "The field is restored," Professor Veltar announced. Mr. Martinez, you can release the creature now. Jake looked down at the Corvin stalker, which was still purring contentedly in his arms. Are you sure? It seems pretty happy where it is. The creature looked up at him and made a soft chirping sound. Then it licked his hand with a tongue that was surprisingly gentle. Jake smiled and carefully loosened his grip. The Corvin stalker did not try to run away. Instead, it sat down next to him and continued purring. The entire classroom stared in absolute silence at the human student who was calmly petting what they had been taught was the most dangerous predator in known space. The emergency response team arrived 5 minutes later. They burst through the classroom doors wearing full combat armor and carrying weapons that hummed with energy. Their leader was a tall Zephyrian with bright red markings on his wing cases. He stopped dead when he saw what was happening in the demonstration pit. Jake was sitting cross-legged on the crystal floor with the Corvin stalker lying next to him like a giant cat. The creature's head was resting on Jake's lap, and it was still purring. Its stripes glowed a soft gold color that pulsed gently with each breath. Jake was scratching behind its ears, and the creature's eyes were closed in what looked like pure happiness. What is the situation? The team leader asked Professor Veltar. His voice was muffled by his helmet, but Jake could hear the confusion in it. Professor Veltar looked at her notes, then at Jake, then back at her notes. The containment field failed due to a power fluctuation, she said slowly. The specimen escaped and was subdued by our human student. The team leader looked down at Jake and the purring predator. Subdued how? He grabbed it with his bare hands, said one of the Altarian students. Her voice was full of amazement. The creature attacked him and he just caught it like it was nothing. The emergency team exchanged looks. Even through their helmets, Jake could see they did not believe what they were hearing. One of them pulled out a scanner and pointed it at the Corvin stalker. Creature shows no signs of injury or drug influence, the scanner operator reported. Heart rate is normal. Brain activity indicates a relaxed state. No stress hormones detected. Jake looked up at the emergency team. Is there a problem? He asked. The creature is calm now. I don't think it wants to hurt anyone. The team leader stepped closer to the edge of the pit. Mr. Martinez, do you understand what you have done? That creature has killed trained professionals. It once broke out of a maximum security facility and killed 12 guards before it was recaptured. Jake looked down at the Corvin stalker, which opened one eye and made a soft chirping sound. Really? It seems pretty friendly to me? Friendly? Professor Veltar repeated. She was writing furiously in her notebook. Mr. Martinez, in 50 years of studying these creatures, no one has ever seen a Corvin stalker exhibit peaceful behavior toward another species. They are pure predators. They do not show affection. They do not purr. They certainly do not allow themselves to be petted. The creature rolled over on its back, showing its belly to Jake. This was the ultimate sign of trust from any predator. Jake rubbed its stomach and the purring got louder. Maybe nobody ever tried being nice to one before, Jake said. Animals respond to how you treat them. If you act afraid or aggressive, they act the same way back. One of the emergency team members laughed, but it sounded nervous. Mr. Martinez, that thing is not a pet. It is a killing machine. Its brain is hardwired for violence. Jake thought about that. He looked at the creature's face, which was completely relaxed. Its mouth was slightly open, and he could see its teeth, but they did not look threatening now. They just looked like teeth. Maybe, Jake said. But everything is hardwired for something. Humans are supposed to be hardwired to run from predators, but I didn't run. Professor Veltar stopped writing and looked at him with her large, silvery eyes. Why didn't you run, Mr. Martinez? Any rational being would have fled when they saw that creature escape. Jake had been thinking about that question since it happened. I don't know, he said honestly. It just seemed like the right thing to do. Back home, if a dangerous animal gets loose, somebody has to deal with it. You can't just let it hurt people. But you had no weapons, said the emergency team leader. No training in handling alien predators. No protective equipment. You should have been killed instantly. I had training, Jake said. My dad taught me about animals. My grandfather taught me about predators. And I guess Earth taught me not to give up when things get dangerous. The Corvin stalker made a happy sound and nuzzled Jake's hand with its nose. Several of the alien students gasped. One of them was recording everything on a small device. "This is impossible," whispered one. "Of the Nereidans. The creature should be trying to kill him. Why is it acting like a domesticated animal?" Jake scratched the creature's chin, and it stretched its neck like a cat enjoying the attention. "Maybe because I'm not treating it like a monster," he said. "I'm treating it like what it is, a smart animal that got scared and confused." "Professor." Veltar came closer to the edge of the pit. "Mr. Martinez, what you have accomplished here is unprecedented in xenobiological history. No one has ever successfully calmed an agitated Corvin stalker. The implications are staggering." "What kind of implications?" Jake asked. "If these creatures can be pacified through proper handling, it could change everything we know about predator species," she explained. "It could revolutionize how we study dangerous animals. It could even lead to new forms of interspecies communication." The emergency team leader was talking quietly into his radio. Jake caught some of the words: command, impossible, request, immediate scientific consultation, and rewrite the textbooks. Jake looked around at all the faces staring down at him. The alien students were still shocked, but now they looked excited too. Some of them were taking pictures. Others were writing notes as fast as they could. A few were talking rapidly to each other in languages Jake did not understand. "Mr. Martinez," Professor Veltar said, "would you be willing to participate in a controlled study of this phenomenon? The scientific community would be very interested in understanding how you accomplish this." Jake considered this. He looked down at the Corvin stalker, which was now completely asleep with its head on his leg. "I guess so," he said. "But I don't really understand what the big deal is. I just did what seemed natural." "That is exactly the point," Professor Veltar said. "What seems natural to you is impossible to us. Your species appears to have instinctive knowledge about handling predators that other species lack." One of the Altarian students raised her hand. "Professor, does this mean humans are natural animal trainers?" "I don't know," Professor Veltar admitted, "but I intend to find out." The emergency team leader finished his radio conversation and looked down at Jake. "Command wants to know if you can safely remove yourself from the creature's vicinity. They need to transport it back to its holding facility." Jake looked at the sleeping Corvin stalker. It looked so peaceful that he almost did not want to wake it up. "I think so," he said. "But I should probably do it slowly so I don't startle it." He gently moved his leg out from under the creature's head. The Corvin stalker opened its eyes and looked at him. For a moment, Jake thought it might get upset about being disturbed. But instead, it just yawned, showing all its teeth, and stood up. Jake stood up too and brushed off his clothes. The creature rubbed against his leg like a house cat, then walked over to its transport box. It looked back at Jake once, made a soft chirping sound, and climbed inside. "Remarkable," Professor Veltar breathed. It went back into containment voluntarily. "This behavior contradicts everything we know about this species." Jake walked to the edge of the pit where a ladder had been lowered for him. As he climbed up, he could hear the alien students talking excitedly about what they had witnessed. "Did you see how calm it was? It was purring like a domestic animal. The human just walked up to it like it was nothing. How did he know what to do?" Jake reached the top of the ladder and found himself surrounded by aliens who all wanted to ask him questions. But before anyone could speak, Professor Veltar held up her hand for silence. "Class is dismissed for today," she announced. "Mr. Martinez, please remain behind. We have much to discuss." As the other students filed out of the classroom, Jake could hear them talking in excited whispers. He caught fragments of conversations in different languages, but they all seemed to be about the same thing. The human had done the impossible, and nobody, including Jake himself, really understood how. 3 days later, Jake found himself sitting in the office of Dean Korthak, the highest-ranking official at Kepler Station Academy. The dean was a member of a species Jake had never seen before. He looked like a cross between a bear and a tree. with thick bark-like skin and small glowing spots scattered across his massive frame. His voice was deep and slow, like rocks grinding together. "Mr. Martinez," Dean Korthek said, "what you did in Professor Veltar's classroom has caused quite a stir in the academic community. We have received over 300 requests for interviews from researchers across the galaxy." Jake shifted uncomfortably in his chair. The past 3 days had been overwhelming. Students who had barely noticed him before now stopped him in the hallways to ask questions. Teachers wanted to observe him in their classes. Even the cafeteria workers stared at him when he got his food. "I still don't understand what the big deal is," Jake said. "I just helped calm down a scared animal." Dean Korthek's glowing spots pulsed brighter, which Jake had learned meant he was thinking hard. "Perhaps that is exactly why what you did was so remarkable. To you, it was simple. To everyone else, it was impossible." The dean activated a holographic display that showed news feeds from across the galaxy. Jake could see headlines in dozens of alien languages. The translation software built into his student tablet showed him what they said. "Human subdues apex predator with bare hands. Deathworld species shows impossible courage. Earth student rewrites xenobiology textbooks. The video of your encounter has been viewed over 50 million times," Dean Korthek continued. "Universities on 12 different worlds have requested copies of our security footage for analysis. The Galactic Institute of Biological Sciences wants to create an entirely new field of study based on your actions." Jake looked at the holographic news feeds with growing amazement. He saw his own face on screens across the galaxy, usually next to pictures of the Corvan Stalker. Some of the articles showed diagrams comparing human anatomy to other species. Others had charts about Earth's ecosystem and predator-prey relationships. "What kind of new field of study?" Jake asked. "Comparative courage psychology," the dean replied. "The study of how different species respond to mortal danger. Until now, we believe that fear responses were universal. All intelligent species run from apex predators. It is basic survival instinct, but humans don't?" "Apparently not all humans," Dean Korthek said. "Professor Veltar has been researching your planet's history. She found countless examples of individual humans confronting dangerous predators to protect others. Your species seems to have an unusual relationship with fear." Jake thought about the stories his grandfather had told him. Stories about park rangers who wrestled bears to save campers. Stories about farmers who fought off mountain lions to protect their livestock. Stories about ordinary people who did extraordinary things when others were in danger. "Maybe it's because we had to," Jake said slowly. "Earth has a lot of dangerous animals. If humans just ran away from everything that was scary, we probably would have gone extinct a long time ago." Dean Korthek nodded his massive head. "That is exactly what Professor Veltar believes. She calls it the Deathworld adaptation theory. The idea that species from dangerous planets develop psychological traits that seem impossible to species from safer worlds." The holographic display changed to show a map of known space. Hundreds of star systems were marked with different colors. Most were green or blue, a few were yellow or orange. Only a tiny handful were red. "Green worlds have no major predators," Dean Korthek explained. "Blue worlds have some dangerous species, but they can be easily avoided. Yellow and orange worlds have significant threats that require careful management. Red worlds are classified as death worlds, where the ecosystem itself is actively hostile to intelligent life." Jake looked for Earth on the map. When he found it, he was surprised to see it was marked in dark red, almost black. "Earth is classified as a Class 9 death world," Dean Korthek said. "Only 12 known planets have received that designation. Most Class 9 worlds have never produced intelligent life. Those that do usually see that life extinction within a few thousand years, but humans survived," Jake said, "more than survived. Your species thrived. And in the process, you developed psychological traits that seem superhuman to the rest of us." The door to the office opened, and Professor Veltar entered carrying a thick stack of papers and data tablets. Her silver markings were brighter than Jake had ever seen them, which meant she was very excited about something. Dean Korthak, Mr. Martinez, she said, nodding to each of them. I have the preliminary results from the Corvin Stalker study. She activated another holographic display that showed brain scans and biological readouts. We have been monitoring the creature continuously since the incident. The results are fascinating. Jake looked at the swirling patterns of light that represented the alien predator's brain activity. What do they mean? The creature has been completely calm for 3 days, Professor Veltar explained. It's stress. Hormones are at the lowest levels we have ever recorded. Its brain shows none of the aggressive patterns typical of its species. It has been eating regularly and sleeping peacefully. That's good, right? Jake asked. It is unprecedented, Professor Veltar said. But more interesting is what happens when we show it recordings of the incident. Watch this. She pressed a button, and a new display appeared showing the Corvan Stalker in its containment cell. The creature was lying calmly on a soft platform, but when the researchers played a video of Jake subduing it, the predator's behavior changed completely. It sat up and moved closer to the screen. Its stripes began to glow with the same golden color they had shown when Jake was petting it. The creature made soft, chirping sounds and seemed to be looking for something. It appears to be looking for you, Professor Veltar said. The creature has bonded with you in some way. This has never been observed in a Corvan Stalker before. Jake felt a strange mix of pride and responsibility. Can I see it again? Dean Korthak and Professor Veltar exchanged glances. That is actually why we called you here today, the dean said. We would like you to participate in a comprehensive study of human-predator interactions. With your permission, we would introduce you to several other dangerous species under controlled conditions. You want me to wrestle more alien monsters? Jake asked. We want to understand how you do what you do, Professor Veltar said. Your abilities could revolutionize how we handle dangerous wildlife across the galaxy. Imagine if we could train other species to use your techniques. Jake thought about this. He imagined alien park rangers learning to deal with predators the way humans did. He pictured scientists being able to study dangerous animals up close instead of from behind barriers. He thought about how many lives could be saved if people knew how to handle predators instead of just running from them. What would I have to do? He asked. Start with observation sessions, Professor Veltar said. We would bring in contained specimens and monitor how they react to your presence. Then, if you are comfortable, we might try controlled interactions under strict safety protocols. And if I don't want to do it? Dean Korthak's spots dimmed slightly. Then you continue your studies as a normal exchange student. No one will force you to do anything you are not comfortable with. Jake looked at the holographic display showing the calm Corvan Stalker and the map of dangerous worlds across the galaxy. He thought about his father and grandfather, who had taught him never to back down from a challenge. He thought about the scared alien students who had watched him face their worst nightmare without flinching. Okay, he said. I'll do it. But I have one condition. What is that? Professor Veltar asked. I want to visit the Corvan Stalker first, just to make sure it's really okay. Professor Veltar smiled, which looked strange on her alien features. I think that can be arranged. 2 hours later, Jake stood outside the high-security containment facility where the Corvan Stalker was being held. Through the transparent aluminum barrier, he could see the creature lying on its platform. It looked smaller somehow, and less threatening than it had in the classroom. When the creature saw Jake, it immediately stood up and walked to the barrier. It pressed its face against the transparent wall and began to purr. The sound was muffled, but Jake could still hear it clearly. Hello again, big guy, Jake said softly. Are they treating you well? The creature made happy chirping sounds and rubbed against the barrier like it was trying to get closer to Jake. Its stripes glowed bright gold, and its 6 eyes all focused on his face. Professor Veltar, who was watching from a safe distance, made notes on her tablet. Remarkable, she murmured. The creature recognizes you and shows clear signs of affection. Jake placed his hand against the barrier. The Corvan Stalker immediately pressed its paw against the same spot on the other side. For a moment, human and alien predator touched through the transparent wall. I think you're going to be okay, Jake told the creature. And maybe we can teach everyone else that you're not the monster they think you are. As Jake walked away from the containment facility, he realized that his life had changed forever. He was no longer just an exchange student from Earth. He was a bridge between two very different ways of understanding the universe.